Welcome to Conversations. My name is Jason Plotkin. I am the Program Director at Congregation Emanu here in Houston. During our conversation series, we sit down with a member of the congregation, the community, or from the sports world to discuss the current state of affairs. One of the great things about the community that Congregation Emanu finds itself in is its diversity and its rich history at both the neighborhood and its institutions. Whether we're looking across the street at Rice University, a few blocks away to Herman Park in the Museum District, or the various houses of worship, a lot going on in this area. And of course, a particular note to many of us in Rice is Rice Village. Many of us have memories from our own experiences in the village as a youth or adult. And we're excited this week to learn what's new in the village with AJ Coffey, the Senior General Manager of the Rice Village. AJ, welcome to our broadcast today. How are you?
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, Jason.
Well, we are happy to have you. And of course, AJ and I sit on various community boards together and happy to explore Rice Village. Before we cover a wide range of subject matter with you today, AJ, I'd really love to share a bit about your background as a person. What can you tell us a bit about yourself, if you will, and what brought you to Rice Village?
Well, thank you for the question. I will tell you that I'm originally from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've lived in about 30 cities and almost 20 states in my life. So I have moved around quite a bit. A lot of that is during my career have been to manage different types of shopping centers. I've managed super regional shopping centers across the country and even open air centers. And some of the iconic ones were like International Plaza in Tampa, Beverly Center in LA, and most recently, the property that I built and opened in Austin, Texas, which was Domain Northside. So my history has been retail all my life, starting in my teens at Dillard's department store through high school and college. And I just fell in love with it and went from just working in a store to managing the whole property.
Well, that's really neat. And how long have you been at Rice Village, remind me?
I arrived at Rice Village in 2019, June of 2019, to take over as management with Reese Associates. We now manage Rice Village for Rice University and Rice Management Company and oversee all of the leasing and management and operations and marketing of Rice Village itself.
So for the people who are watching, I think Rice Village might seem like much bigger than it truly is, or much smaller perhaps in some people's eyes. Can you really explain to us what the borders of Rice Village are? What are the areas that you truly maintain and the areas that constitute what it is you oversee?
Thank you for that question, Jason. Yes, it is. And it is confusing because Rice Village does expand. It's a part of a community throughout and near Rice University. But the portion that we manage, the portion that we call Rice Village, actually does have borders. The borders are from Kirby Drive over to Times, over to Morningside Drive to University. So that big section of those blocks is what we consider Rice Village, that is owned and managed by Rice University and through us, Reese Associates.
All right. And you know, the one thing that has impressed me about Rice Village and may be overlooked to those who just aren't aware is the outreach to the community beyond just the stores and the restaurants. There's public art around Rice Village. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's public art around Rice University. Give that a plug. But maybe more so pre-COVID, you guys were doing quite a bit of things to really engage the community. For those not aware, what are some of those things that people could do beyond shopping and eating, if you will, at Rice Village?
Well, those two things are really important in Rice Village. We have a lot of local mom and pop owners, in addition to the regional and the national retailers and restaurants throughout our property. But that is why we've spent the time since we took over management to really put a lot of effort into how people experience Rice Village. So now when you come, you do see the new beautiful public artwork that we put throughout the village. When the village has been there since 1938. So over the years, you know, those beautiful trees began to buckle up those sidewalks. So we've gone in and had to replace the concrete of the sidewalks from where all the roots were, knocking them out of place. And then most importantly is the landscaping. We put a big focus when we took over management in 2019 to really enhance and upgrade the landscaping throughout the property. And it's just now plush, it's beautiful, additional trees. And we even changed out the seating. You know, we wanted it to feel comfortable, a place where you can go and spend time. It's not a rush hustle bustle, if you will, when you're shopping at Rice Village. It's still a wonderful strolling community of retailers and restaurants that you can just sit back and kind of enjoy with their outdoor patio seating and the lights throughout the property. We've enhanced with new LED lights, so it's brighter as you get into the evening. And then of course the holiday decor, which is coming down this next week. Just beautiful. It makes you feel festive. And that's what we wanted, along with live music throughout the property.
I love that you talk about it being a strolling property. And I think for many of us, just walking around Rice Village is a big part of our memory. So that was, I mean, right on target, if you will. So
well, being new here, I have to tell you, even when I first got here, and I would meet people throughout the community, there's no one I met, whether it was a retailer, whether it was a customer, whether it was a community person in a meeting, that did not have memories of Rice Village. And they would all be so quick to share the stories of when they grew up and when their parents and their grandparents took them there. I think that shows the element of what Rice Village is to the city of Houston. It truly is a place of memories.
Continuing our conversation about what people can see about Rice, I think COVID has obviously led to many businesses of varying size, change their footprint, shuttered locations, and all that kind of thing associated with how COVID is impacting how we operate. As Rice Village had to deal with many changes due to COVID, I know a few weeks ago, and I've seen in press that there's new retailers who are coming on board who have expressed an interest. What are you guys seeing over there?
Well, as you know, when COVID first happened to us as a nation, we found ourselves having to close mid-March of last year. All of our retail shops closed. Many businesses throughout Houston and the city and the country closed. But we were able to maintain our restaurants. Most of them stayed open, but they saw a significant decrease in their traffic and in their sales. So we wanted to determine how can we help them through COVID. Some of the changes and things that are helpful to us was the fact that Rice Village is an outdoor environment. So the whole point of social distancing, 6 feet, was easier for us to accomplish probably than an interior mall. The whole point of wearing masks and requiring that people wear a mask in all of our stores, we added signage to indicate, you know, you must wear a mask to enter, please social distance 6 feet. We added hand sanitizer locations throughout the property so people could use that as they're walking through the property. So we took a very aggressive, proactive approach to dealing with COVID. And I know it was well received by both our retailers and our customers and the community at large.
All right. Well, as a bit of a follow-up question to that, you know, I think Rice Village has made itself accessible to pop-ups who, for those who are unfamiliar, maybe short-term leases of space. In past years, you probably have seen the Christmas holiday pop-ups, whether at Rice Village or quite frankly anywhere. You might see them for Halloween or other specific times of the year. Is this going to be a trend that we're going to see maybe in the village and shopping centers going forward? I know you brought up your vast experience working at a lot of strip centers and shopping venues. What are we going to see going forward?
I think you'll see more of it now than you have in the past. The biggest reason for going that direction with the pop-ups is, number one, we continue talking about wanting to give back to the community in which we serve. Well, one of the other areas in giving back to the community is also supporting those local business owners. And a lot of them don't have the wherewithal and or the experience and or maybe even the financial funding to do a brick and mortar store and pay full rent. They're not sure if their product's going to sell well, though it may be selling very well on the internet. So they want to test it in a brick and mortar. And that's where the pop-up comes from. It's a short-term lease that could turn permanent if they find that it's extremely successful. But we just want to give these entrepreneurs an opportunity to come and start a new business in an area such as Rice Village, where they have great neighbors, staple of the community, stores and restaurants that have been here for many, many decades. And that gives them the opportunity to come in and show their where. And we found that it's been very successful. I mean, we just had during the holidays, Crew Homes was in there, and they're probably going to come back. Inside her studio, which was an art studio, all female artist, was extremely well received, had a beautiful reception last week. They just closed their doors because they were here for a couple of months. But we know that this one gives them an opportunity to show what they have to offer and then the potential to turn into a full-term lease and a permanent tenant. And that gives them more revenue for them and a new business for the city.
Wow, that's really neat to hear how successful. I mean, you exude the energy and gets, I think you get us fired up about some of the positive things happening. And another positive thing is, and a new addition is a Rice Village Farmers Market. I think those in this area are used to the farmers market on the campus at Rice University, which is right now closed. Rice Village has now launched within the last month as farmers market. How did this come about, and how can people learn more about the market? And of course, for those watching, anything that we learned today from AJ, we're happy to share with the video as a link or something like that. So AJ?
Well, we couldn't be happier than to have the farmers market. We know that the one at Rice Village, unfortunately, had to shut down because of COVID last year. But when that happened, we actually were approached by an operator, and we looked into doing a Rice Village farmers market. We came up with the operator, who is just amazing, who has other locations throughout the city. So she knew what she was doing. In communication with her, we were able to come up where she was with 40 vendors that are on our property. And so we launched it in December, and we launched it with 40 vendors on the first Sunday in December, and decided that we will do this now going forward every first and third Sunday. And it's from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. It is well received. It's a way that you can see families come out. Again, with COVID in the air, this is the good thing, is that we're outdoors, again, easy to social distance, wear your mask, and enjoy the environment of, again, supporting local, farmers and businesses to help get their ware out there. I will tell you, each of the 3 that we've had so far have been so well received. And we know that that will continue to grow. And there's entertainment as well. There's live music. And even our businesses throughout Rice Village are all saying, thank you for bringing the farmers market to us, because it's totally affecting their sales on a Sunday afternoon, which wasn't there normally.
Right. And, just continuing to talk about the retailers, as a Rice Village, what were some of the impacts that your retailers saw as they have to shift to COVID protocols? Obviously, you're bringing some interest and enthusiasm in with the pop-ups, the farmers market, what we talked about, and curbside is certainly in now and is going to stay. What are some of the other things you're hearing and seeing from the retailers at the Rice Village as they try to accommodate and adjust to these kind of protocols?
Well, the very things that you mentioned are true. It's what did we do as far as signage? What did we do as far as ensuring that everyone was safe when they came to our property? And then assisting our restaurants, as we said, with the curbside parking, the pickup, where you don't have to, you do your order to that particular store on the phone, and you come and pull up your car, call them, and they come out and put your package in your trunk of your car. So you don't have to any contact directly with a person. That helped a lot of our retailers when they were able to reopen. I think that it's important to also note that one of the things we did to accommodate was to make sure that they knew who the new tenants were coming in, and that there was still a new reason to come. A lot of businesses and a lot of retailers went out of business. We did lose some. I mean, you mentioned it correctly. We had some national tenants that unfortunately we lost, like Victoria's Secrets and a few others. However, we were fortunate. And again, I will say it's because it's Rice Village, I believe, in talking to some others in leasing, to some leases that we were in negotiations with, we were able to still secure them. So that's why we announced in the past couple of months, West Elm coming in and CB2 coming in. And we've got probably 3-4 more that we're going to be announcing very soon that will be joining us as retailers and restaurants even at Rice Village. I think the bottom line of it is they realize, it's going to be challenging going into a mall. Interior malls are having a tough time. But when you talk about a lifestyle center, when you talk about a community center such as the Village, we provide them with assets that they can't find elsewhere. And then again, we're pumping so much energy and focus into what does it feel like? People come there and they feel good and they don't feel unsafe. And we want to continue to encourage that. Our security that walks the property, you might as well call them ambassadors, because they're so helpful to our customers that come through. They're not just there to secure the property, if you will. We have not had security incidents that are typical in most retail environments, with break-ins and things of that nature, because our security is 24 hours a day. But in addition to that, we're just a different environment. I mean, we're like the shop down the street, if you will. And it's really a wonderful village for people to come and enjoy.
You mentioned being the shop down the street, and Rice Village really prides itself on its role in the community. And one thing that has stuck out to me is that various companies and businesses and entities and organizations have stepped up these last 10 months. Early in COVID, Rice Village launched Fair to Care to provide meals for healthcare workers in the medical center. What was the thought behind Rice Village doing something like this?
Well, as you recall, once COVID hit us and we shut down, and then people started to build back up, but the numbers and for COVID in the city of Houston continued to grow, we began to see the stories published of the healthcare workers and the first responders, and they were literally going around the clock nonstop. They didn't slow down. They wanted to save lives. They wanted to help people become healthy again. But they were working these crazy hours. There was no such thing as a 9 to 5 for them. When we started seeing those stories, Rice Management came up with the thought, what can we do to help? And we're right there by the medical center. So that was the first focus. What can we do to help those workers at the medical center? And that's where Fair to Care came from. Let's take care of them. They can't leave and go get something to eat. They're stuck in the hospital. There's only so much you can do in eating hospital food. We have some amazing restaurants at Rice Village. So what we decided to do was like, go to our restaurants and say, would you be interested in, and we couldn't even get all the words out there, like, where do I sign up? And so we had these restaurants creating box lunches and dinners for these workers at no cost to the worker. And we had them delivered to the hospitals. And I have to tell you, one, they love the fact that they were fed, but I think as importantly, they were really good meals, from 60 Vines and Diamicos and others that were participating in it. They were really good meals. So I think that made a big difference for them as well, to just have El Mason and others to say, we're willing to prepare. And we've even had it where during a period of time where we had some challenges in the city and police officers were being dispersed throughout the city just to make sure everything stayed calm, they were providing meals for them too during that period of time. So the officers were eating really well.
I need to remember, if we're doing an interview recording at the lunch hour and we're talking restaurants, I probably need to have a little snack before we do this. It's been a challenge. You're dropping all these great restaurants names, and I'm getting hungry, and I'll eat after this. But continuing the conversation, and maybe that's a nice way to go into this next one. I can't have you on without talking about parking. Someone would certainly be upset if we didn't talk about parking while having you on. And quite frankly, as someone involved in the community, I understand why Rice Village made the parking decisions, and I'm a big fan of them. Completely understand why there's parking meters, and I love that I no longer have to drive around for a few minutes finding a spot. And that being said, there remains free parking in the village, which I think is something under the radar in some respects. Tell us where we stand on parking in the village, and about, namely, while we have an opportunity, the free parking options that still exist.
Well, let me share that when COVID hit us last year, one of the things we had to look at was, one, people weren't coming out. They were staying home, as the mayor had asked everyone to do that, with the exception of first responders. But once we did start to slowly reopen, we wanted to ensure again that customers felt comfortable. And so the curbside parking, curbside pickup, if you will, we thought, we don't want them to feel like they've got to get out and plug a meter though. And so through the end of May of last year, we turned all the meters off. We opened the gates to all of our parking garages, and we had complimentary parking for everyone through May of last year. That was so important to us to do that. Now we're back to our normal parking where you do pay at the meters. However, keep in mind, our parking garages, the first 2 hours are still free. They have been, and they're still free. So you can come and dine a decent meal and not have to rush through it, and go out and still not have to pay for having parked within those 2 hours. First 2 hours are free. After that, it's $1. Then it jumps up to $2 or $3. But I'm saying it's really important that everyone recognizes the fact that the first 2 hours are free in the garages. And then most importantly, know that the funds from our parking meters and from our garages go towards scholarships for students at Rice University. Again, I'm not sure everyone's aware of that. Those are not funds that go into a bank account for us as management. They go into funds to help students attend college. So it's just a nice way to have an opportunity that we, one, have parking spaces directly in front of the stores that you want, which wasn't the case before several years ago. We had apparently a lot of people were parking at our property for free and then going to the medical center where they would spend the rest of the day with, unfortunately, with sick loved ones. However, that took away those spaces in front of these retailers, and they just weren't able to get the number of customers because it wasn't convenient. Once we went to the meters, that made it more convenient. And again, reminding them, don't look at it as, oh my God, it cost me $1 to go and park in front of a store. No, but that $1 is going to help a kid go to college. And you found a parking spot in front of that store because people that aren't there all day are no longer doing that. It's our shoppers that are now coming. It's our diners that are now parking in those spaces, and the spaces are much more readily available.
Yeah, and for those curious, the Kinder Institute at Rice, which is very well respected, are the people that did the parking study and helped Rice Village navigate those challenges. So that's a very fascinating document if you ever get a chance, and there were some great presentations done at the time. So as we get to the tail end of the conversation, I always like to end on a positive note or takeaway. Is there something that might be floating under the radar that Rice Village or you have done personally that has stuck out to you as a positive story during COVID that wouldn't have happened if it weren't for COVID?
Well, I will tell you, from my perspective, COVID did force people to, one, spend more time with their family, two, come up with a different way of communicating and helping each other. For us, I think that the best stories are those where we saw people coming out, thanking the stores for reopening, telling their stories. You know, there's so many stories of sadness, but there's also stories of recovery. And I like to think that we're now part of that solution of recovery. We're saying you can still come out and enjoy being here. You know, even during the holiday season, normally we would have a Santa. And instead of doing a Santa, we created some Instagrammable moments, we call it. We added some new holiday decor that people could take their own selfies in front of and still have that memory at Rice Village. So we're encouraging families to continue to come out. We love seeing the strollers. Oh my goodness, the number of dogs that people have and pets, and yet you don't find dog poop on the sidewalks. People are very conscious that this is their village and they're owning it. And despite COVID, I think that family feeling that is still available at Rice Village, the place where you can still create and have memories, there's nothing better. There's nothing better than to see these local businesses continue to work towards getting back to whatever business as usual used to be. But we're making a difference, not only for them, but for our community as a whole. I don't think it gets better than that.
I love that. And then lastly, I always, I used to work in public relations. I guess I still do to some degree, but I always like to put on my PR hat and give our guests a chance to tell us how we can learn more. So obviously you were sharing that more news about new tenants is coming. We talked about the farmers market. What are the best ways that people can learn about Rice Village? And of course, I'll share these when we share the video, but what are some of the best ways we can follow you guys?
Oh, I'll be glad to share that, because even when we had the Fair for Care, I mean, I don't know if you realize we serviced over 15,000 workers during our Fair for Care program when COVID first hit. Over 15,000 meals were donated. And so how we got the word out there and how we continue to get the word out of what we're doing, who's coming, what's next, is through our website. And that's rice-village.com. It's real easy. Also, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, and we have Instagram. So we're out there on social media, we're out there on the website, and we just welcome you to come and to enjoy. And for those that hadn't been here in a long time, come back. I am certain you'll be pleased. You know, we may have been here since 1938, but we're not done yet. We still have so much more to do and many more decades to be in existence.
Well, I think that's a great way to end it. AJ, I really enjoyed these 30 minutes or so that we spent together today. I really appreciate your enthusiasm, your energy, and I know and talking to colleagues across the super neighborhood, I think we all feel very positive about what you bring to the Rice Village. So thank you for coming on today.
So my pleasure, Jason. So my pleasure. And all the best to you as we enter this new year and look for many, many more positive things to occur for all of us.
I appreciate that. So I would like to also, as we close our show, thank David Tanner behind the scenes, who's recording this episode of our conversation series. Our next edition of Conversations will air on Wednesday, January 27th at 12 noon, as we welcome Pamela Valdez Velasco of MD Anderson Blood Center. We'll learn what's going on with blood donations, how they've made it safe for us to give, and possibly some of the benefits of giving blood during COVID. And of course, as a reminder, we've now recorded over 30 plus episodes of Conversations. You can catch any episode you missed right there on the Emanu YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us, and we will again see you Wednesday, January 27th. Have a good one, everybody.